Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Serge, and welcome back to another episode of Search for the Truth. And our goal with this podcast is to really bring knowledge and empower people to get better naturally. And today I'm really excited to have my guest. She's a fellow Canadian, actually. She lives in Vancouver, she said, and from Quebec, so on the other side of Canada. But today we're going to talk about the aging from the inside out, using the body, mind, and spirit aspect of this approach, right?
Yeah, this is my jam. This is what deep beauty and radiance is all about, and I love seeing this in men.
This is a good topic for men as well. Actually, more and more people ask me what to do to just look younger. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're a nurse. You do holistic approaches. You try to use options that are other than surgeries, for example. So tell us a bit about you, your journey, and why you are so passionate about what you do right now.
Absolutely. So my credentials are I'm a board certified aesthetic nurse specialist, and since 2011, I've performed over 20,000 rejuvenation procedures. I'm an international speaker, trainer. I write academic papers. This is my last journal entry on jawline aging. I'm a 3-time award-winning academic published author in both the US for Plastic Surgical Nursing Journal and Journal of Aesthetic Nursing in the UK. So internationally, I get around a little bit in the international space, which is great. And honestly, the Europeans are a little bit ahead of the game than us in North America in regards to cleanliness and strictness with ingredients. And I love just helping people understand what they can do to optimize their at-home and in-clinic rejuvenation. And I do all that at RachelVarga.ca. I'd love to have you also on the podcast, Rachel Varga Podcast. My passion is really sharing those ways of being and ways of living that are going to optimize our body, mind, spirit, and energy. Those types of practices go really deep. It's not just what we put on our skin. It's not just the rejuvenation that we do. Yes, those all have a place. And I help to create a plan for my clients on how to implement all those different layers.
Awesome. Wow. You know a lot about skin. I mean, I've listened to your podcast, your videos. I'm so excited to have you today. So aging or anti-aging is a big field right now in medicine, in science. We are trying to figure out how to slow down the process of aging, which ties in with skin, because skin, that's the first thing we see in somebody's situation face, right? So what can you tell us, first of all, about skin, inside out, the body, the gut? Because a lot of people talk about gut, skin. So what's the connection with inflammation, the gut, the skin, how you look?
It's all connected. That's the funny thing about it. Is people always look for this magical skincare beauty product or supplement or treatment. That's going to be that one thing that fixes everything. And it's really the pieces of the puzzle is how I recommend you approach it with your at home. And sometimes, seeing practitioners to do the other stuff. I just interviewed a friend of mine. She's a triple board certified gynecologist and now functional gynecologist. And I love seeing allopathic providers then take that next leap into the functional world as well. And we were talking all about hormone balancing. And the thing about hormone balancing, and actually one of our viewers chimed in on that live stream saying that hormones, they can run the show and they always kind of want our attention. And if we don't notice the different things that might pop up to be kind of like warning signs that our hormones might be off. So say, for example, you wake up and overnight, you feel like you've aged overnight.
Yeah.
That can actually be for women from a very steep estrogen drop off. So think perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. For guys, this can happen too. We can have implications with hormones through personal care products. So for example, using ingredients in your products like parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, fragrances. Of course, we don't want to test on animals either. But these can mess with male sex hormones and lead to decreased libido, hair loss, all sorts of things. So hormones really are what run the show, and we need to also support our gut health. So for myself, I feel like my skin is better than ever. Over the last couple of years, I've really gotten laser focused with gut health optimization, genetic health inquiries, and things like that, and also some hormone paneling. that can really give us clues as to when things might be a little bit off. And especially because myself in my mid 30s, I'm able to take that data. So we're testing now instead of guessing as things that might be in the kind of like the picture for me. And then in our younger years, we can do something about it to be proactive about our aging. So we're no longer doing the Jane Fonda route of just like waiting and then getting 3 facelifts. It's where we now are seeing the much younger generation, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s as well, realizing that it's all going to come from a multifaceted approach. It's not going to be just from one thing. But I do still feel really bad for consumers out there because they get marketed pretty heavily with all these anti-aging gimmicks and stuff like that. So I help people stay on the straight and narrow.
I mean, almost every day I have ads on my Facebook about those different products. So use that, you're gonna feel younger and look younger. And there's no quick fixes, unfortunately. I wish there was. But it's really interesting to me that you brought out hormones, because this morning, I was reading an article by a colleague of mine, and he was saying or demonstrating that the skin is the biggest organ, or is the main organ of hormone productions. We believe the ovaries, the uterus, the adrenals, but he demonstrated that skin is part of hormone regulations when it comes to estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. So what's the connection there? So I was surprised actually to find that out, because I always believed it was the glands or the organs, but the skin does play a role in hormonal regulations.
All right, so there's a couple of things happening. So when we're like too hot or too cold, or say, for example, we have a cut on our skin and then we get introduced to some type of pathogen, it can make our way in. The body skin is really important for vitamin D synthesis, not so much on the face, neck, chest, but really the body. Absolutely, getting that morning vitamin D can be really helpful for getting the serotonin, which is going to be really helpful for helping you sleep better. So the skin is, in fact, our largest organ, which I love talking about the skin because it is the largest organ. Yeah. And if you're wanting to pick up on clues about the quality of your health on your insides, inside your little meat suit here, you do have to take clues from your skin. So if you're noticing accelerated aging really quickly, if you're noticing more thinning and crepiness, if you're noticing more acne, if you're noticing more acne scarring kicking around for a couple months afterwards, or more pigmentation, those can actually be signals to hormone disruption, genetic predispositions, issues with detoxification. Skin is a huge detoxification organ as well, through sweat and stuff like that.
So you mentioned detox, right? So the skin, it is an organ of detox. So what happens if your body is not able to fully detox through the phase 1, phase 2 of the liver pathways? So does it actually show up on the skin? What's the connection with the liver and the skin detoxification pathways?
Sure. So that isn't necessarily an area of my expertise. So I know which questions I need to defer to another expert and whatnot. But what we want to do is focus on making sure that we're internally giving our bodies antioxidants. So I actually work with a really cool third-party independent lab tested supplement that makes superoxide dismutase products. Over 15 years of third-party independent lab testing. When you're looking at supplements and products, you want to make sure it's got the independent third-party lab testing. If this is a new phrase for you, this is like a whole other world of high-quality products. So when we take antioxidants, like in a general multivitamin, your vitamin C or your vitamin E, one molecule of those is going to neutralize one free radical. When you're using really potent antioxidants like superoxide dismutase, I've heard the founder of this company say, and this is based on research, that one molecule of SOD can neutralize 1 million up to 1 billion free radicals. So that's something that you're ingesting, which, yes, is going to get distributed elsewhere in the body. And I, in particular, really like taking that type of supplement because I burn really easily. I'm really susceptible to skin cancers, hyperpigmentation, things like that. So it allows me to be outside for longer and not burn as easily, as almost working like internal sunscreen. And so it helps my body function better.
So is there a way to support the SOD production or antioxidant production by the body?
I'm not familiar with ways to support production, but I am familiar with the topics of supplementing SOD and also making sure that you're eating foods based on tests that hopefully you've been able to perform. And if you have questions about which food tests are great, they're usually a stool sample type of test. We want to limit our introduction into our bodies of inflammatory foods. And what's funny is a lot of times these inflammatory foods have been touted as healthy, natural foods that are grown in the ground or on trees and things like that. But when they enter the body and with your specific gut microbiome and your epigenetics, it might actually create more inflammation. So we can actually get super sophisticated with reducing inflammation and oxidative stress with our food choices, our supplement choices as well. And also how our mind, energy, spiritual practices are also playing into how our body's working also through stresses and stuff like that.
Then you have a good point here because a lot of people focus on the body, the physical aspect, the diet, and so on. But the mind, the spirit, the spiritual aspect, exactly,
Mind
it's
and
all
heart,
connected, right?
100%.
So can you tell us a little bit about the stress component of this this aspect, I guess, how stress can actually impact our skins? Because sometimes I see people are stressed out and it does show on the skin.
All right, I'm going to do a little exercise. So sometimes when I go on podcasts and we talk about stress, we're like, oh, it's like that high beta state. You got to take it a couple down. You got to take it down a couple notches. Yes, we want to be high vibe individuals to look and feel our best. But when it comes to the way that we're talking and the way that we're sharing information, the way that we're living, drop it down a little bit into those other types of brainwave states. And right away, you're going to be reducing. You'll probably notice what I did to my voice a little bit there. Slowed it down. And I wasn't in that like ADD, OCD state, right? Got to get this information out right now. We can take little steps in our life to create the life that we want. And so this is very different, a different way of approaching it than say, oh, what are the things that stress us out? Well, why don't we focus on the things that don't stress us out, right? So getting outside in nature, moving your body, drinking filtered water, bonus points if you know how to structure your water, which I love talking about.
Yes.
Playing musical instruments. I've played guitar since I was 10. So I play on my Gibson Les Paul electric and also on my acoustic. And that really helps to just calm my mind. Really good for neuroplasticity, really good for hormonal regulation to get you out of that high beta state and get you into that creative flow, which if you're an entrepreneur or working professional, you're going to function a lot better when you just take little music breaks. That's something I do. I read books I like to enjoy. I eat good food. I see my friends and family, all of these things. Having community are really important as well. Like really bolster up your community right now for support, especially, during this crazy times, right? We're all about uncovering the facts. Well, you do want to surround yourself with people that are on kind of that same wavelength. And really this is a very deep topic I'm going to get into, which you probably weren't expecting me to, but we are at a bifurcation point. You can either choose to go down this lower vibe, high vibe state, full of disease and accelerated aging, or you can intentionally make the choice to go up this other route, which is more of like that high vibe type of living that is going to be full of more of the positive. So when we're thinking about this bifurcation point, we live in a world of duality. Okay. This isn't like the exact analogy, but for every bad thing that happens that you see on the news that might make you stressed out, just remember that there's also the positive opposite to that. So it really just depends on what type of timeline you're choosing to be on. That is probably one of the best ways that I can help people kind of conceptualize, how do I get out of that like 3D low vibe state into more of this other way of being that is going to be more conducive to hormone balancing and reducing stress levels and all of that.
Man, I think you just explained in a few minutes why people that I have witnessed have been getting worse and sick since 2020. They are stressed out and they have they have issues. I mean, people that were healthy and they were burned out, stressed out, and they started having those different conditions. So thank you for your explanation. That was really, really cool, actually.
I wouldn't mind expanding on that for just a second.
Go
So
ahead. Yes.
I've been in like two pretty rough car accidents within a really short span of a year and a half. I
Wow.
had really good health leading up to that. I was working out with a personal trainer. My hubby's a 6-time pro world champion kickboxer. I
Wow.
got a pro athlete in my corner, no pun intended. And because of my health, I was able to navigate that bump a little bit better than most women would have. But then I got bumped again. But right before that bump, I had bolstered up my brain health. I had really looked at reducing my inflammation with my body and my food, body, mind, spirit, energy optimization. I was walking the walk. So then when ish hit the shan, which it's going to in your life, you can be more resilient. And then when you see how much better you're able to overcome that, it will actually just help you feel like your most badass self. But here's the kicker. A lot of people are cruising through life and they have what's called like this toxic bucket. So with this toxic bucket, say they got bad air quality in their home, they got mold, they got VOCs, all sorts of things. They're eating toxic food with not a lot of nutrients in it. They're using toxic self-care products. They're around toxic people.
Yeah.
What happens, that is going to tip over. And then that's when you're going to see disease and things like that. This isn't health advice. This isn't medical information. This is informational purposes only. If you think you have a medical condition, seek the guidance of a licensed physician. But that toxic bucket analogy is so key, which is also why I'm so forthcoming and passionate about sharing more cleaner ways of aging and getting rejuvenation than just going straight into in-clinic injectables and surgery, because not everybody is, detoxed enough to actually be able to tolerate that stuff.
Wow. Thank you for expanding on that. I think it makes more sense the way you explained it, but it's easy to get it. I would like for you to expand a little bit on what happened to me years and years ago. I witnessed this patient. She came to me. She looked like she was 70 years old, really bad shape, but she was actually in her 40s. So we ran different tests and we found out she was highly allergic to gluten. So she got on gluten. She came back a few weeks later and she looked like she was 30 years old. So what's the impact of what you eat on your skin? Because one of the things that I hear a lot, and most all the time, is dermatologist says that diet has nothing to do with eczema or rashes or the way you look. Can you explain to us a little bit the connection there?
Yeah, to be honest, it's more of a disconnect. So
Yeah.
the rock star healers that I know of are like the doctors and nurses that have gone from their Western allopathic system that have then added the functional system along to it. Those are going to be the rock star healers that I'd love for you guys to support, especially right now. They've done like double the schooling as a traditional Western provider, and they can do so many more advanced things. So with the patient that you described, she was pretty well always in an inflammatory state. Okay. So she wasn't having optimal collagen and elastin in her skin because her body wasn't able to regenerate and rejuvenate itself while she was sleeping. It was just so busy trying to detoxify itself. And yes, in pretty short order, once you just clean up your act a little bit, body, mind, spirit, energy with the foods you're eating, get a little bit more specific, you can notice and use the right products topically. Of course, that's super important. That's where I come in. This is where we can actually start to see changes in oftentimes as little as 1 to 2 months, which is really positive. So say you've made some pretty lame life choices. You've drank a lot of alcohol, you've done drugs, you've been around toxic people, toxic work environments. Your home is probably like a toxic soup.
Yeah.
And you haven't been in nature enough, you haven't looked after your body. You can make a choice anytime to want to really look after your body, mind, spirit, energy. But you can't just look after one, right? It's like Stephen Hawking, right? He was disabled in a wheelchair. He couldn't really do much with his body. Yeah. So what do I think he did? I think he really bolstered up his mind, spirit, and energy practices in order to address that. And that's actually Le Chatelier's principle. So in my ebook, I actually talk about this, where it's like body, mind, spirit, energy equals whole human. So based on Le Chatelier's principle, because I have a background in Gen Chem, Organic Chem, Biochem, if we just kind of like increase certain numbers of reactants, if they're going down, you're still going to get that, optimal human outcome. So say you've had an injury, right? And you're dealing through stuff, just bolster up the other stuff.
Actually, it's funny you bring it up because I have witnessed that, and sometimes I couldn't understand why people they eat junk food, they smoke, they drink, but they live to 90 years old, they good spirit, good spiritual life. So I think it makes sense based on what you just said.
They
Actually,
don't know how good they can feel too.
yeah, correct. And you keep mentioning toxins, toxins. So what are the toxins we need to avoid to have healthy skin or healthy body? Actually,
For sure. Yeah, body, mind, spirit, energy, like literally all of that stuff. Like call in your protection, especially right now. Like, what the heck is your spiritual practice? You better figure that out if you want to be able to navigate this craziness.
yeah,
But when it comes to like things you're putting on your skin, is you need to right away look at your products and see if you have any parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, fragrances in there, and also check with the company if they are testing on animals. There's this whole other concept now of clean money, right? We want to be
yeah.
supporting businesses with our, emotional support and economic support that have the same values. This is how we kind of like create this new way of living, which is, I'm seeing a lot of this stuff come up lately, which is so incredibly beautiful. The other kicker is with sunscreens. So the issue I'm seeing a lot with my one-on-one clients is they're all proud. They have this mineral sunscreen. And then I ask them, read the medicinal ingredients on the back of your sunscreen. So this is like your moisturizer sunscreen, your foundation, your primer sunscreen. If it has like zinc and titanium, that's awesome. That's what we want. We want zinc, titanium, mineral sunscreen filters. But the sneaky part is that if you look at the medicinal ingredients, you may see things like oxy, avo, octo as
Yeah.
chemical sunscreen ingredients, which are known hormone disruptors, right? And predispose you to, experiencing different types of disease processes and pathologies.
Awesome. So is there such a thing as clean, non-toxic makeup, for example? Because that's a concern that a lot of my female patient has,
I'm
right?
wearing it.
Yeah, exactly. There is, but people don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for consumers to know right now just what is clean and also what's going to perform. Because most of the time, consumers are just seeing like a Facebook ad, a social media ad, or they're going to their local stores. By the way, there's one store in particular. I'm not going to name names here, but as soon as you walk into these beauty stores, you just get overwhelmed with this waft of fragrance and perfume. You'll even see this in big box stores with VOCs, right?
Yes.
So if you smell it, it's in your brain, it's going to be messing with you. But if you're in that building long enough, your olfactory senses, your nose will become desensitized. You won't even notice it.
Yeah.
So when you are running as a super clean human, you're going to notice so much easier when these toxins are kind of creeping in, and you can say, no, thanks. So yes, it's kind of a minefield. So I just recommend that tuning in if you have questions about clean skincare, clean makeup, clean supplements for optimizing your aging process. And also, what really can you do at home with dermal rolling, using the right products, say with like copper peptides, retinol, hyaluronic acid. That's where I come in. So just reach out.
Awesome. And peptides. Peptides is a big thing out there right now. There's hundreds of peptides. People ask me all the time, should I do that? Should I try that? Should I do this? So can you tell us a bit about peptides and what they are? And are they helpful for anti-aging or for health?
Yeah. So peptides has been in medical grade skincare for a very long time. So I've been doing this work since 2011, and I learned about peptides and skincare basically day one, like squalene, for example, matrixyl 3000, argireline. These are really common peptides, copper peptide. So copper peptide is kind of like a known, almost like antioxidant. It really helps with your skin aging process and also with things like pigmentation. So like sunspots and age spots and things like that. So peptides are responsible for being basically like cell signalers. How can we give our body some of the cofactors that it needs to behave optimally? So the kicker here is a lot of times you'll find products, whether it's supplements or skincare, they'll have the ingredients on the ingredient list saying it's got, hyaluronic acid, copper peptide, retinol, argireline, and all sorts of different ingredients, actives, and peptides. But what matters is the final formulation. And if that final formulation, all those ingredients are working in a way that's going to deliver a safe and effective product. So just because you see the ingredients on an ingredient list doesn't actually mean that that final formulation is doing what it's going to hope you're going to do. So that's again where I come in, where I've used, I work with about 13 medical grade lines from Canada, US, UK, Europe definitely has the highest regulations with ingredients. And I see what my clients keep coming back for and what I use, what I like, the consistency and all of that stuff. So it's kind of a minefield, but yeah, just reach out.
Awesome. So one of the things that I've seen a lot lately, at least in Houston where I live, is companies, definitely health companies send me samples of skincare product that has probiotics in it. So skin probiotic or skin microbiome seems to be a big thing right now. Are those products beneficial to us?
All right, so let's talk about CBD for a second, because a number of years ago, what was this, like 5 to 10 years ago, CBD was exploding.
Yeah.
You know, you can invest in it, all sorts of things. I think there's like 13 different pathways of CBD and THC actually impacting the body, and a couple of those impact the skin. And I learned this through one of my colleagues. She's actually the first ever urogynecologist, board certified urogynecologist female in the US. Her name's Dr. Betsy Greenleaf. What a cute name of all things. And she actually used a lot of things like that actually for pain relief in her gynecology clients. So when I was chatting with her, it's like, yeah, these skin pathways are still pretty new. They're not really well understood. So what I've noticed, which is going to be a great kind of correlation to the whole probiotic stuff in skincare, is that you're seeing a lot of these like gimmicky CBD skin products coming out. And I haven't seen it in medical grade. Same with the probiotic kind of deal with the skin. And what always needs to happen is like that first, second, third iteration of a formula, product, device, treatment. That's when you're really going to get the rock star effects and protocols with it. So that would be my advice. It's like, don't jump on the shiny bandwagon. To this day, I don't actually use skincare that contains that, because I haven't seen the efficacy that I want to see. One of my girlfriends, Dr. Erica Gray, she has her PharmD in pharmacology. She's a pharmacist. And she's like, yeah, you know, before I used to use this pre-probiotic stuff that she'd get through the pharmacy that would get shipped to her. And then she used some of my stuff that I recommended. She's like, wow, it's like a whole different ballgame. We just want to cover a couple of basics with the skin. Cleanse morning and night, moisturize morning and night, sunscreen every single day, exfoliate 2 to 5 times a week, the right sunscreen though, and the right scrub, the right cleanser, the right moisturizer to really kind of just like stabilize your skin. But yeah, the pre-probiotics for the gut, I mean, that's very well researched, and there's some super precise precision supplements out there for that stuff.
Thank you for the clarifications, because that's something that I see every day, every week. People ask, like you said, they're so gimmicky, We have a question here that listener wants to know, what's the best diet when it comes to a healthy skin?
It's actually kind of a question I get all the time, but it's actually kind of a bad question because the answer, you're really not going to like me for this answer, because there really is no one special diet, because all of us have different genetic makeups. We all have different epigenetics. We can have like really similar DNA, but depending on how we're living our lives and the different toxins we might be exposed to, the different, levels of hormones we have, our epigenetics are going to play into that. So my advice for optimal skin nutrition is actually going to go to testing instead of guessing. So I definitely have some resources for that. Obviously, I love sharing resources. I'm a nurse. That's what I'm trained to do. Community advocate, resources, all that sweet jazz. So you want to get laser focused to what's going to be right for you, right? So maybe having the kale and tomatoes might not be right. Maybe having caviar once a month might be a good idea for you. Maybe having beef instead of chicken. Maybe having beef collagen instead of poultry collagen. It really just depends. But for the most part, you want to stick with like low inflammatory foods. So like avoiding nightshades, that can be a great place to start. Eating like real food,
Yeah.
not prepackaged food. So going like super basic, make sure that you're avoiding different oils, like for example, processed canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil. Get yourself like some organic safflower oil. I do a lot with linoleic acid oils in an organic form to boost my brain health and performance. And guess what? The cardiac diet, the brain diet, the gut health diet is also going to be the skin diet.
You're sure right. There's no one specific diet for everybody. It's really
No.
individualized. So, as a final note, what can you tell our listeners about skin health and health in general? Where to start, for example, what to do as basic steps?
Well, it's up to you. You have to choose, make a choice as a human. Okay, I want better skin. I want better hair. I want to be healthier. I want to be more vibrant. I want to be more radiant. You have to be in that mindset. So when it's really funny how it actually comes down to mindset, law of attraction, even for beauty and radiance. So something to get you started to focus more on that beauty and radiance mindset, which is going to get you better, healthier skin. Get out in nature, start to not simply, but just from the most basic essence of it, really enjoy the beauty around you. So say you're like walking up a mountain, there's this really cool rock with like all this cool moss on it that you just want to sit on. And then you get this really cool perch and then you can take a look at this sweet view, admire the blossoms and the trees and maybe the beach or the trees around you. Just start to notice the beautiful stuff around you and just kind of be grateful for it, interact with that. And when you're doing your self-care practices, doing things that can be quite simple, like promoting facial lymphatic drainage. I have a great video on my YouTube channel talking about facial gua sha. Use your own fingertips, guys, because you actually have a lot of energy coming off your fingertips. I have a device that actually tests the corona photona discharge off of your fingertips. It's called the BioWell. It's Russian tech, and it actually will measure the light coming off your fingertips and then put it on a computer program and gives you all sorts of cool readings. And like energy medicine stuff, it actually can give us insight into things that might actually come up a couple of weeks later, a couple of months later. So you can get pretty deep with your health optimization, but just start with that beauty mindset. Be grateful for some of the features that you have that you love and really give yourself the grace and the love. Like if there's something you want to work on, make an effort to work on it, but always focus on your body, mind, spirit, energy practices, bolstering them up, maybe every day adding a new layer to that kind of way that you live. And then reaching out to someone like myself to help you out as well can be a great place to start.
Awesome. So before we close, we have a comment from Alex. I'm going to put it on the screen. So as you can see, are you closing yourself off to the benefit of the sun when you apply sunscreen? So yeah, this is a good question. So what's the balance with sun exposure, sunscreen, and skin cancer?
So I love this question because it's a huge assumption. Sorry to call you out, Alex, but you basically assumed that I don't go into the sun because I talk about sunscreen. So I love the sun. The sun is the most unadulterated source of light in our world. I love the sun. And what's really crazy is, sorry to call you out like that, Alex, but it's a bit of tough love here. But yeah, every day I get at least 15, 20 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll actually work outside. I'll take my acoustic guitar out. I'll take some reading breaks or some music breaks. I work outside way better, just having that light around me and being in nature. But the superoxide dismutase supplements that I take and all the other good things that I do to reduce inflammation in my body makes me less photosensitive to the sun. So I actually burn less now than I ever have because I have so many wonderful antioxidants in my body. I have less inflammation, so I don't burn as easily. So yes, I will apply mineral sunscreen to my face, neck, chest, and hands all day, every day that ends in a Y. But I won't necessarily on my body unless I'm getting prolonged exposure, because I do actually want that body sun exposure on my arms, on my legs, on my abdomen, but not at the times of day when we're getting a lot of high UV index. So moderation.
Thank you for the clarifications. That's a question that people are really concerned, actually.
I love my nature time. I'm outside every day.
You feel so much better. And in Vancouver, of course, you had that nice landscape, the trees, the fresh
I'm
air.
actually on an island.
And that's even better, man.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit jealous there. how can people reach out to you? Email, website?
Yeah, everything about me is at RachelVarga.ca. If you want to learn more about me, if you want to work one-on-one, pick up my ebook, RachelVarga.ca. I have really great skin camp programs too, where I kind of like expand on all these things and do dermal rolling demos and stuff like that. And then the Rachel Varga podcast. So you can find that, the Rachel Varga podcast on YouTube. The obviously all podcast streaming platforms. Hang out with me at Rachel Varga Official on Facebook and Instagram. I'm pretty active there. If you have a question, just send me an email, info@RachelVarga.ca, and use promo code Dr. Sergey for 15% off of your one-on-one call with me as well.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for doing this. That's really generous of you. Good. So, Rachel, thank you for your time. It was really interesting. I hope to see you again, talk to you again later, and we'll have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to having you on my podcast as well. So stay tuned, everybody, for when that happens.
Awesome. Good. We'll see you later, guys.